All right, guys, welcome back to the Strength in Hands podcast. This is episode 33, and we're calling this one The Consequences of Leadership. The question of the day is, do you like to lead? I think that there are a lot of people who do not like to lead. They think it's too much pressure. They don't like the idea that their decisions actually have consequences that affect other people's lives. And so I can understand it. There was a time in my life where I didn't really like leading. I didn't want to be in the spotlight, in the center. I didn't want people looking to me for stuff. But what I've realized is that is my role. That is my mission. As a Christian male, I am supposed to be a leader in the community, a leader in my household, a leader to my wife, a leader in my business, and I can't get around that. That is the charge that God has given to me. And I believe that's the charge that God has given to you. And so whether you like it or not, whether you feel you're gifted in it or not, you have to learn how to be a leader. Now, everyone is a leader already in some form or fashion. In this culture, it's a popular idea to follow other people, right? And so if you're going to have followers, you have to have leaders. So we don't really have a choice. People are watching the things that we do, and they are going to either follow us and like what we're doing, or they're not going to follow us because they don't like what we're doing. Some people think that it takes a certain personality or certain traits to be a leader, but I would suggest that leadership is just a constant daily commitment to doing the right thing. And we're going to talk about what doing the right thing does for you and for other people. So I have a story about leadership. This comes from a book called Facing the Mountain. This is a book about the Nisei, which was a group of Japanese Americans, second generation, Japanese Americans born in America, who fought for America. Now, it's understandable that this would be a strange idea because we were fighting against Japan in World War II. But these men were patriots. They cared about the country. They cared about freedom. And so they formed the 442nd Regimental Combat Team. A lot of these guys were from Hawaii, but there was also some from the mainland. And they were an amazing group. So in this book, it talks about a certain time that they were in France. In October of 1944, the 442nd Division was fighting through the towns of Briere and Bifontaine. They were trying to liberate these two towns under German control so that they could cut a path into Germany through the Vosges Mountains. They fought for 3 weeks. They were pushing the Germans back from house to house to house. And eventually they finally got it done. But it was a very difficult fight and they had a lot of casualties. Luckily, they were promised a break after the fighting. Once they liberated the towns, they stopped in the houses and they sat down and they started to rest. And some of them were taking out cigarettes, and passing around food. When suddenly, from upper command, they get this message: "We need you to go fight and rescue another battalion." In the book, the eyewitnesses, the people who were interviewed, who were actually there, just described their dread and the sinking feeling that they got. They were completely exhausted. Some of them were recovering from trench foot. They were just bone tired. And so they get this call like, "Hey, we need you." And they're like, "We've got nothing left to give." But the situation was there was another battalion, the 141st Division, which was a group of Texas National Guard that had pushed into the Vosges Mountains too far under the direction of General Dahlquist. They went in without flank support and without artillery support. They were trying to take advantage of the pressure that had been happening in the mountains at the time. But what the Germans did is they just waited until they pushed so far, and then they cut a circle around this division and trapped them. And so they were surrounded by Germans and fog and rugged terrain, and they were just completely pinned down. And the Germans were just going to wait them out. And if anybody came out of their foxhole, they'd just gun them down with machine guns. So you had 275 men trapped, and then you have this Nisei group who's completely exhausted, commanded to go take them out. So you can understand the struggle. You have leaders at the top saying, "Hey, go get these guys out." You have your immediate commander saying, "Wow, guys, I guess we have to go do this now." This is a compare and contrast moment between good leadership and bad leadership. Clearly, the bad leadership started at the top. This General Dahlquist should not have pushed so hard so fast with no support. But then you have Virgil Miller. Now, Virgil Miller is the one who I want to highlight here because he was the real hero of this story, along with all of the people he commanded. He was not a Nice himself. He was actually Puerto Rican, but he had led the 442nd through a lot of battles, and they respected him. They felt like he understood them and he cared about them. And so he was the one who got this order from General Dahlquist saying, you got to go rescue these guys. And so what he did is he followed the orders like he was supposed to. But what he also did was he inspired his men. The operation ended up being a quote-unquote success because they rescued the 141st Battalion, but it came at the cost of almost 800 lives of the Nisei. But what they remember about him was that he was hands-on, he was emphatic, he was fighting with them. He wasn't just at the back. He was extremely coordinated. He had artillery going, he had infantry assaults, and constant reorganization as the casualties mounted. So he was someone who actually cared about the troops and didn't want unnecessary casualties, where it seemed like Dahlquist was just ready to throw everything at the Germans just to see what would happen. So what I want you to get from this story is that each person, each individual had a choice to make of whether they were going to be a good leader or a bad leader. Virgil Miller and the commanding officers under him, and even the infantrymen, were all amazing leaders. Napoleon said, in war, men are nothing, but one man is everything. He was talking about the fact that one man truly makes a difference. If you choose, I'm going to be the inspirational character. I'm going to be the one who takes a stand. I'm going to be the one who pushes the charge. That makes a difference. And so it's not about the collective, it's about the personal. So what was amazing, though, is that every single man decided to make this choice. All of the Nisei pushed as hard as they possibly could through their exhaustion, through the woods, through the fog, through the machine gun fire. And they earned themselves a nickname from the Germans, Die kleinen eisernen Männer, which means the little iron men. The Germans were so impressed with how dedicated they were and how fierce they were that they gave them that nickname because they actually feared them. It cemented them a place in history as one of the most fearsome groups in World War II. So I want you to consider what it means for you personally to take a leadership role, to be that inspiring figure in your circles, because it does make a difference. So now what I want to do is I want to get into some of the qualities of a leader. What does a leader do? What does a leader look like? How can we practice leadership? Those kinds of things. So something that I tell the kids at the gym all the time, I always ask them, guys, what does a leader do? And they have this response that they're supposed to know because I've told them several times. And it is, a leader does the right thing and makes sure the people following him do the right thing. So some people think that leadership is all about ordering other people around, right? You're a leader if you can get people to do what you want. You do this, you do that, you do that. That's a leader. I would submit that that is not true. Some people think that leadership is having personal discipline and being able to do the right thing. I would say that that is not full leadership either. Even though it's important to lead yourself and be disciplined, it doesn't cover everything that a leader is supposed to be. A leader does the right thing and makes sure the person behind him is doing the right thing as well. So like I said earlier, there are people who are going to be following you. In your life, you've got coworkers, you've got friends, you've got family, you've got siblings and peers and teammates, fellow students. They're going to look at your life and they're going to be affected by the way that you live. So you want to make sure that you are doing the right thing and you are making sure the people following you are doing the right thing. If you have that influence, don't be afraid to use it for the good. So something that I've been trying to do, because I'm in a position of leadership at my job, I'm a gymnastics coach, is I've been trying to teach my boys leadership. So I have a group of team gymnasts who come in 5 days a week and they have to stretch. Every single day they have to stretch. And so what I've done is I've assigned a certain day to each one of the boys. On Monday, it starts with the oldest, Tuesday, the next oldest, and so on. So that by the time we get to the end of the week, even the youngest one of these boys is leading the entire group. Now, something that's interesting is that even the older ones um, really don't like leading. They groan when I say, "Okay, it's time for you to lead." They go, "Oh." They don't want to be the ones saying, "Point your toes. Let's move on. Hey, do this right." It is a lot of responsibility. But the other funny thing is that they also don't want to be followers. They don't want to take directions from anyone else. So they don't want to lead, but they don't want to follow. They just want to do what they want to do. Now, I can completely understand this because when I was that age, I wouldn't want somebody telling me, like, hey, you need to lead or you need to listen to this person who's younger than you. That wouldn't necessarily strike me right. But the thing is, people have got to learn how to lead. If you are not willing to lead and you're not willing to follow, and everybody does that, that's called anarchy. Anarchy, as described in the dictionary, is a state of disorder due to absence or non recognition of authority or other controlling systems. The only way that people can flourish is under leadership. The only reason our world works the way that it does and is not anarchy is because we have government. There's a recognizable ladder of authority. And you see that not just in government, but you see that in families as well. You have the parents who are the leaders of the children, right? So every institution is led by somebody. Every school, every workplace, they're all led by someone. This one aspect of personal leadership, the ability to lead your peers when you have been given a position of authority, it's so important to wield it well. When I was in high school, I had a PE class, and the teacher needed someone to lead stretch in PE class. And no one wanted to do it, but I stepped up, even though I didn't really want to do it necessarily. I did it because I knew it needed to be done. And then when I started, I realized, whoa, you know what? This isn't so bad. And I actually like being up here, able to show people the right way to do things. And I took a certain level of pride in it. It wasn't a big thing, but over time, it has established my confidence in my leadership abilities. And I've been able to lead in more and more things. So you need to take those opportunities when they're given to you. So that's what I'm trying to do with these boys. So the question now is, what qualities are we looking for? Well, we're going to start with the qualities that we're not looking for, because there are a lot of leaders who will rise up out of the anarchy because no one else is willing to step up. But we don't always get great leaders out of that. There's a book called The Lord of the Flies, where a plane full of British schoolboys crashes on an island. And all of these boys have to establish, like, who's going to be in charge? Who is going to lead us until we're rescued? And, originally, this one upstanding young boy rises up and he's leading through, diplomacy and trying to have everyone work together as a community. But eventually he gets overrun by the boy who is all about power and violence and silencing other people who disagree with him. And all the boys kind of gravitate to that. Just because you have a group of people moving in one direction doesn't mean that's a good direction. So that's not a great example of leadership. You don't want to have a Lord of the Flies situation on your hands. You need to know what are the qualities of good leadership and of bad leadership. So here are some qualities of a bad leader. And we already looked at some with General Dahlquist. One is that he didn't take any counsel. He didn't take counsel. He was not acting wisely. And the scriptures talk about this. In Proverbs 11:14, it says, "Where there is no guidance, the people falls. But in an abundance of counselors, there is safety." So this is an aspect of humility. If you cannot take advice from another person, you're not cut out to be a leader. That's just the long and the short of it. You have too much pride in you. You are not willing to think about others. And people need servant leaders, not totalitarian dictators. So find out if you can take orders from someone. That's why listening to others, like I'm trying to have my boys do at the gym, being able to take orders even from someone younger than you is so important. Another quality of a bad leader, complaining. This is a huge one. I read the book Extreme Ownership, which is written by two Navy SEALs, Jocko Willink and Leif Babin. And in it, they talk about BUDS training. Now, BUDS stands for Basic Underwater Demolition and SEAL Training. So in this story, they're talking about some of the exercises that these men have to do in their SEAL training. One of them is a boat race. The group of men has to put a boat over their head, and they have to carry the boat a certain distance into the water, if I remember correctly, and then carry it out. So there was one group that they realized was consistently finishing first. and another group that was consistently finishing last. And they looked at the leaders of those two groups. The one that was leading had a leader who didn't complain, took ownership, and inspired his other teammates. The one that was losing had a leader that was constantly complaining, blaming the crew, and saying that he was stuck with bad teammates. So what they did was they switched leaders. And this is what happened. The crew that had always finished last, once they got the good leader, immediately started winning races. And then the crew that had always finished first didn't fall apart, but they weren't quite as dominant as they had been before. In fact, it was the other group with the good leader who was now dominating. Complaining and blaming other people is not a good recipe for leadership. You need to be able to look at the value of the people who are supporting you and build them up if you want to be a leader. The people around us are full of good ideas. If you want people to see the value in you, you have to recognize that there is value in other people. You cannot just look at yourself and think that you are everything that a man should be, because you're not. You're a flawed human being. You have blind spots. Other people are strong in areas that you are weak. So we need other people. We need to be able to recognize the gifts in other people. That's what a good leader does. But we're talking about bad qualities, not good ones yet. So we'll keep going. Lack of vision. This is something in Scripture as well. Where there is no prophetic vision, the people cast off restraint. But blessed is he who keeps the law. Now, someone who was big on vision was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, we know that he accomplished a lot. His name is synonymous with strength. This is what he said. When your vision is powerful enough, everything else falls into place. How you live your life, your workouts, what friends you choose to hang out with, how you eat, what you do for fun. Vision is purpose, and when your purpose is clear, so are your life choices. Vision creates faith, and faith creates willpower. With faith, there is no anxiety, no doubt, just absolute confidence. So, he said vision is purpose. When you see the vision for your life, that you are supposed to be a strong man of God who provides value to the world, then you are going to want to step into the hard things, the things that other people don't want to do, because those are the roles that really need to be filled. So we need good husbands. We need good workers. We need good fathers. Those are the roles that you're supposed to take up. So you need to establish a vision for what you want those roles to look like. How do you want to lead your wife? How do you want to lead your kids? How do you want to benefit your workplace? Make goals for yourself. Create a vision for your life. Where am I going? What does the Lord want from me? What can I look back on at the end of my life and say, I accomplished exactly what I was supposed to do? That's what the Lord is calling for. That is what makes for a great leader. Then you have another negative quality, which is apathy. The scriptures talk about this. This is Proverbs 6:9-11. How long will you lie there, O sluggard? When will you arise from your sleep? A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come upon you like a robber, and want like an armed man. So, the thing that bugs me the most when I'm coaching gymnastics is kids who are not tight. Now, that may seem like a strange concept to you, but when you're trying to hold a kid up in a handstand whose legs are dead weight and separated, and you're trying to hold them up, and then suddenly they decide to take all pressure off their arms, and so you are literally like holding them off the ground by their dangling legs, that is not fun. It is very hard to work with children like that. All I want from them is a little tightness, but they're just giving me apathy. One time I had a kid who was acting like that, and he's prone to just lying on the floor and saying, I can't, I'm too tired. And I said, buddy, do you know what it's like to push a rope? We have battle ropes at the gym. And when you have a rope or tug of war, you're pulling on something that's actually giving back to you. Or if you're pulling a weight across the floor, like you can handle that. But I was like, have you ever tried pushing a rope? That would be the most awful, meaningless task. If somebody told me to push a rope all the way across the floor, I would be like, what? What are you saying? That's what it's like working with you. And I didn't say it to be mean. What I was trying to tell him was like, look, if you want to get better, I need something from you. I need to have you be tight. Otherwise, I can't shape you. I can't mold you into the form that you're supposed to have. And I've been applying that to myself recently a lot, is that if I don't do anything with my life, if I don't push myself, if I don't try to make podcasts or be intentional with my wife and think of things to do for her or whatever it may be, if I don't make an effort, then God cannot actually shape me or mold me. It's like pushing a rope for him. So if you're going to be a leader, you have to be willing to make mistakes. You have to be willing to do things that, maybe they won't work, but at least the Lord can work with you to fix it. The Lord wants you to put in some effort. So don't be apathetic. Then last on my list is fear. There's a lot of people, like I said, who neglect leadership out of fear. This could be what held Adam back in the Garden of Eden when Satan was tempting Eve. Adam may have feared that he was going to disappoint his wife if she didn't get what she wanted, which was clearly the fruit of the tree. And so Satan offered it to her, she took it, and then she gave it to him. He might have feared that she was going to judge him if he didn't eat. And so you have sin entering the world because of fear. That is not what a leader is supposed to do. A leader is supposed to be strong. So we know that God has given us strength. And when we are fearful, this is what he says to us. This comes from Exodus 4:11. This was Moses trying to get out of a leadership assignment that God had given to him because he was making excuses saying, I don't have the qualities that I need. I can't speak eloquently, so I can't lead the people out of Israel like you're asking me to do. But the Lord said to him, who has made man's mouth? Who makes him mute or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak. There is no need for fear, because even if you feel inadequate, if the Lord has put you in a spot that requires leadership, he's going to equip you right then and there. So now we're going to look at the qualities of a good leader. And honestly, what you could do is you could take the bad qualities and just flip them on their head. If there's fear, there's courage. If there's apathy, there's initiative. If there's lack of wisdom, there's wisdom. But I want to get a little more specific than that, if that's okay. So number 1, I have 5 of them. Clear communication. We have to be able to communicate clearly with people. I think that there's a lot of trouble that goes into a vague statement. So if I say to my boys, hey, go on over to that event and get to work, I'll be there in a second. That's fair communication, and they should know what that means. But a really great leader has specific communication. Go over to rings, get up on them, and do 20 pull-ups. That's clear communication. And I think that the Lord is so great because he is the perfect example of a leader. And in Micah 6:8, he gives us specific directions. He has told you, O man, what is good, to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with God. God does not mince words when it comes to telling us what he wants. He wants us to love our neighbor. He wants us to love God. He wants us to preach the gospel. So if we're going to imitate Jesus, if we're going to imitate God himself, then we have to also be clear communicators. We have to tell our followers what exactly we want from them. And that goes along with number 2, which is a strong vision. That's what Arnold Schwarzenegger was talking about. We have to have a vision of, this is what I want to accomplish. This is what I want us to accomplish. That's what Virgil Miller did with his men. He said, guys, we're going to rescue this battalion. Even though it's not something we want to do, this is what we're going to do. That was his vision. Number 3, we have to always be willing to do the right thing. This harkens back to what I talked about earlier, is a leader always does the right thing and make sure that others are doing the right thing. If people see that you are being lazy as the leader, they are absolutely going to follow suit. They're absolutely going to be lazy just like you. If I'm leading a group of kids through a workout that's really hard and suddenly I stop, I know for a fact that some of those kids are going to stop with me. You can't stop. You have to keep going. You have to do the right thing constantly. You have to always be willing to do the right thing. Number 4, you have to be able to correct those who are not doing the right thing. You have to be firm, and you have to use your own example of dedication to say, look, I've been doing it this entire time. I've been faithful to my wife. I've been faithful to my work. I've been faithful to whatever. You are slacking right now. I need you to step up. And that can be said in love. That doesn't have to be a judgment. That doesn't have to be holier than thou. That ought to be the honest truth about you, is that you do the best in everything you can do at all times. And so you have a spotless record, really, is what we're looking for. And then when you fail and somebody corrects you, You just humbly admit, say, look, you're right. I'm going to get back to doing what I got to do. That's what a good leader does. That was a bonus for you. That wasn't on my list. But number 5 is an inspirational attitude. So, above all of this, you have to be able to call out the best in people. You have to be able to look at a person and say, look, I know that you've got more. The definition of inspire is to breathe into something. That's what the origins of that word mean, to breathe into. You have to give people life with your words and with your actions, with your mannerisms. You got to be able to look at them and smile and say, I know that you got more in you. That's what a good leader does. So in your family, in your business, in your school, in your faith, in your community, we need good leaders. Are you going to be one of them? Are you going to take initiative? Are you going to adopt those qualities that I talked about? If my guys don't get the hang of this stretching thing, of this leadership thing, what's going to happen is that they personally are not going to have the best stretching that they can do. It's always better when you can hear feedback from other people. Other people are the mirrors with mouths. They'll tell us what they see so that we can fix it. But the other thing that leadership does is that leadership builds a machine that runs after you're gone. If you're a leader and you can inspire a vision for your followers, those followers are going to carry on your work even after you leave. Jesus Christ is an example of that. Jesus Christ started a work with a vision that people have been following for 2,000 years. The vision is this: preach the gospel and help people know God. Fear God and obey his commandments. This is the entire duty of man. That's what Ecclesiastes says. So we're trying to help people know God. That's why I'm making this podcast. But we have examples of that in the founding fathers. They had a vision for a free nation, a nation that has free speech and free religion, where people can have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You have Charlie Kirk starting Turning Point USA, who's trying to get us back to those roots. And even though he's gone, people are still following that vision. You are going to establish the vision for your family someday. You are going to establish the vision for your workplace. You're going to establish the vision for X, Y, and Z. So make sure that you are a strong leader so that you build the machine that runs after you're gone. Here are some practical tips for you. Take on more responsibility. When you have an opportunity given to you, when your boss says to you, look, I need help doing this, take them up on it. Take that extra responsibility. You can challenge yourself to do something hard. Doing something hard that you might not think that you're capable of, while it may not be perfect, it's like doing a handstand with a tight body. Even if you're wrong, God can still shape it, right? So do something hard. Challenge yourself. See how you can help other people. You can do something that you said you were going to do. Another quality of a leader is that they're trustworthy. So you can do something that you said you were going to do. Did you tell your wife that you're going to take out the trash? Then do that. Did you tell your kids that you're going to take them to a baseball game? Then do that. You have to be trustworthy. You have to be reliable. People have to know that you are someone worth following. In general, you need to make yourself desirable to others. Einstein said, try not to become a man of success, but rather to become a man of value. People need to know that when they turn to you, they're going to be able to receive something good from you, something worthwhile, something worth their time. That's what I try to do at my work, with this podcast, with my wife. I'm not perfect. Absolutely, I'm not. But I find that trying is more fun than not trying. And so that's what I'm trying to inspire in you guys. So that's the end of today's podcast. This one was pretty advice heavy, not so theology heavy, but I want everyone who's listening to know that all of this advice is coming from the scriptures. Jesus Christ is the one who gives our lives worth. We can feel sometimes like our work doesn't matter. You absolutely matter. Everything that you do has an effect, a ripple effect on other people. And so don't take yourself for granted. So guys, that is the end of my podcast. I hope that this inspired you. Don't shy away from leadership just because it has consequences. It has consequences too if you don't pursue it. If you let the world descend into anarchy, because nobody wants to lead and nobody wants to follow, then we're going to have a mess on our hands. But you can make a difference so that that does not happen. And people are going to respect you for it. People are going to follow you for it. And the Lord is going to reward you for it. He who is faithful in a little is faithful in much. So guys, if you like this episode, make sure that you give us a 5-star review. Share it with anyone you think it would be helpful for. If you want to leave comments or future podcast suggestions, you can leave those at strengthenmyhands@gmail.com. Check out our Etsy website if you want some Strengthened Hands merch. And we'll see you here next time, guys. Thank you for watching. Be strengthened. I'll see you next time.